Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Doing It Scared. So I have some fun today. We are going to create a fall door hanger. So I'm just going to jump into everything right away. I want to first show you the door hanger that I created. Now this right here, as you can see, has the name Elaine. This is one that I created for my mother-in-law to go. She just moved into a new place, so this is going to be her door hanger for that. But I am going to use the flip side to create today. And I've already got things a little bit started for you. So I'm going to do it like this. Now, if you do a flip side and you want to use both sides, remember that when you trace the back side or start painting that you have the top at the right place. I will tell you, I did not do that with this. I did not even think about it, but that's okay. She doesn't really hang these. She puts them on a table outside with a little stand so it can be adjusted. So let's talk about some of the colors that we're going to be using today. So on this right here, I went ahead, you can see I'd already traced my stencil and I outlined the stencil marks in black Sharpie, and so now I have the image. I put a base coat of vintage white. Yes, this color right here. Okay, so everything is ready to get started because I don't really want to try to paint around these items. It's just easier to do a whole sheet. So another thing that we used, I'm going to show you, this is the stencil. This is came in a pack of some different various ones. So you can see if I line it up right there, eventually we'll get it in the right spot. So I just traced this out. One thing I did not do, you will see, is I did not fill in all these little random pumpkin marks because I'm not stenciling this, I'm painting it in. If I was stenciling it, then I would have not even bothered tracing. I would have just done that. But I'm not a big stencil fan, but I like to use the stencil for my tracing. So we've got that there. Now, the colors that we will be using today is going to be Hauser Dark Green. I have Hauser Light Green. Then, of course, we're going to have our Spiced Pumpkin. For our yellow, we're going to be using Deep Ochre. And then I have a Burnt Umber. I have Fawn. I don't even know that I'll use this, but we'll see. I also, as always, I'm going to have a black. You'll notice I don't have a white. There isn't going to be much that I'm going to do with white because I did the background all in that vintage white. And then if I decide I need a little bit of red in those leaves, I pulled up the red color. Okay. So I want to create a line underneath these so that this stands out kind of like I did on the other one. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So I have this T-square. This works great because it helps you keep everything nice and square, and it's also great if you need to like settle it down and then count how many inches and make those marks. So I'm going to start on this side first. And I'm going to take my pencil, and notice I've lined this up to the side of the project here. I'm going to just pull this one around that way. Now I'm going to do the other side. Notice I'm not even measuring like how many inches I want this. I'm just settling it around the design. Don't know why I have a funny voice today, but there you go. All right, I'm gonna do this side. Make sure, yeah. All right, so done with that. And then to make sure that my lines stay nice and clean, when I'm ready to paint these two sections, I'm going to use some washi tape to block this off, and it will give a really nice edge. But I wanna do this middle part first, okay? So we're gonna start there. Let me move this back around. I'm gonna be moving this to the different areas that are closest to me. And I normally don't start with lettering, but I absolutely hate lettering and I mess up all the time. So I'm going to be using this Posca pen. It is a black acrylic marker pen, so I can go and get my letters started. And you will see my hands do tend to shake. I think I've told you guys that before, but this helps because I'm not going to do the whole letter with the marker. I am going to use paint, but this helps me get really nice edges that will work really well. Whereas when I fill in with paint, the paint goes farther. So it's just kind of like I'm making a coloring, so to speak. Now, I will say this too, with the Posca, this is an acrylic marker. It does not dry instantly. So if I were to try to go ahead right now and paint on top of this, you could see some bleeding of this black ink. So we're gonna fill and do the lettering in the outlining. Then I'm gonna come down here and do my pumpkins, and then we'll come back up and finish the lettering. You can see here, I have a line that is from the stencil, but it will not show because I'm going to be blending this as not a stencil, but full wording. So you won't notice some of that those other marks in between once we've gotten this outlined and then painted in. Now I am using 15-inch round circle with a 1/4-inch MDF board. You, of course, can choose to use pine. You can buy whatever you like. I like the MDF just because it creates more weight. So I do have some door hanger circles that I bought to make examples, and they're like maybe 1/10 of an inch thick. So they're very, very lightweight. However, if I actually hang those on the outside of a door, I do find they blow off very easily. So I like the little bit more weight that the MDF gives. It's also a very economical option. If you prefer, you can go to Hobby Lobby, Michaels. A lot of times they'll have these in pine boards that are heavier. So you're welcome to do that too, especially if you want a wood grain, if you're going to stain versus paint. So if you wanted this stained, this is MDF. It's not going to take a stain because it's flat. You're not going to see any of those beautiful wood veins in it. So that is another option too. Like I said, I tend to stick with this because I love the material. It's easy to paint with. And this is really an easy design to do. I find pumpkins being very easy to shade with. I'll show you how to do that. Again, it's not gonna look like the stencil. These are gonna be solid pumpkins with some highlights and tones to give it some dimension. Getting ready for the fall season. Of course, down here in Florida, we don't really get fall colors. We don't get a drop in temperature enough for our trees to change leaves. Everything we have is pretty much green year-round. But we do have plenty of people that miss those fall colors, so this is one way to bring it into their home and share with neighbors. Okay, so I have got the lettering traced out. We're going to leave that. I'm going to work on the pumpkins. So I'm going to turn the pumpkins back to where I have it here. I'm going to kind of do it on the sideways because I'm going to do from this side to this side. No, I'm going to do this side to this side. Sorry. If I do it backwards, then I could get paint in my hands. As you all know, I end up with lots of different colors on my arm. I'm not a neat painter. So we're gonna start with the spiced pumpkin. And I'm also gonna get a little bit of this brown. And I start out with small amounts because a little goes a long way. And I am going to do a little bit of the ochre. All right. So I'm going to be using several different brushes. I have a medium round, and then I have 2 liner brushes. This one, the bristles are a little bit shorter. This is about a little bit longer. It doesn't matter. I use these interchangeably, but I'll probably be using them because I'll just use one color for each one rather than rinsing many, many times. Because that's where we're going to get some of those highlights and lowlights. So I'm going to start with my spiced pumpkin right along here. And I'm just basically following the outline. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill in. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to want to do 2 coats because I want a little bit depth of color. And when I start highlighting, I want it to blend better. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in, do the first coat of orange for all of these. I'm even following the pencil line with those. That's where I'm going to be putting some browns and other colors. But I like to have the brush stroke follow it. You will probably still see that line once this orange dries. But I still like to have my brush strokes kind of go in the same direction that I'm going to be doing with my highlights and such. All right, 2 down. Here's a bigger one. This, of course, is a flatter pumpkin, one of those smaller ones you see. We do have pumpkin patches down here. It's just because pumpkins grow really nicely. It's just you don't have the fall weather. Florida fall is usually in the mid-80s. Low to mid-80s, where it's quite a bit different there. Of course, I'm just guessing. That's from I haven't checked an almanac or anything for that statistical. I'm just guessing because that's the time of year that I absolutely love is our fall and winter here. Nice mild temperatures. Now, if I was doing this for myself, as many of you may have heard me say before, I'm not a big fan of orange colors. I really don't like fall colors. So I think you've seen before, I've done some pumpkins and fall with a light blue and white. You can totally put your colors in this. This would be really cute if I wanted to do that. I could do some whites and some blues, maybe even some navy in here. But because I'm going to be giving this to my mother-in-law, I know she loves fall. So I'm going to continue with these orange colors that I know she loves. Almost through the first set. Can see that I'm not necessarily worried about exactly how that goes together because that's where my stem's going to be. And I'll just be painting the stem part over the top. So those of you that are local, check out my Facebook page. I've got a lot of events coming up for the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. Those of you that are not local, shortly, maybe the end of next week, I'm going to start having some kits together that you can purchase that will do some of these designs as well as some of my regular canvas paintings. So if it's something that you're interested in, check back regularly. I do porch pickup. If you're within 15 miles, I can deliver for a charge, or you can just have it shipped, and I would give you the shipping price based on your location. Always looking for another way to share the creativity that I love, as well as diversify my options for everyone. All right, so you can see we've got that first section done. This over here, the insides are already dry. Okay, so I'm gonna do pretty much one by one. I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna do a light coat. And now I'm going to pick up my shorter liner brush, getting some brown paint, and I'm just going to add some of those veining you would like. You want to follow kind of down here where there's ridges. That's kind of your guide, and you can add as much or as little as you like. And I always do on the sides too, because we need just a little bit to show the difference of where we are. Now, I like kind of this, I like it on the outside to be more solid, but I do like to blend my inner vein. So I'm gonna pick up a little bit with that same brush of orange, and I'm gonna go right on top of these veining, and you can see how it's starting to blend that in. If I do the blending and I don't like it, I can go over it again with the brown, but I like how it creates tones and highlights. Here we go. And I can just keep layering until I get the color I like. So there's my first little pumpkin, okay? I'm gonna do the rest for all the way through on the rest, and then I'm gonna come back and we're gonna make the stems and we're gonna do all that other fun stuff. So back to my orange again. This time I'm doing a very light layer. You can see some of those pencil marks through here that are denoting where I'm going to put that dark brown. Okay, now I'm going to pick up my little one again. Again, putting some brown in there. I see a vein there, I see a vein there. Again, the one on the outside areas, I'm gonna leave more solid. I'm not gonna blend those. That one, I like this one right here. Just because they kind of define which pumpkin we're on. Okay. I'm gonna pick up just a little bit of orange. I do want to blend this one a little bit. I think this one is a little bit too dark. As you can see, as I'm pulling up, you're creating a shading of that veining. And again, I'm going to touch up a little bit later, but right now I'm wanting to get some color differentiate. I promise you, you got to wait till the end. Next pumpkin. So as you can tell with this orange drying, it definitely needs 2 coats because it just shows up. Now out of canvas, a lot of times I don't need that, but MDF and then the blank, the base with the vintage white is just bleeding through a little bit. All right, now let's do our veining again. And I see there's some coming up here, here. And let's get that. Okay, now with some orange to blend. All right, next pumpkin. Now the small brush again. And shading with the orange. Once again, time has flown. I'm seeing that it's 11:23 already. I'm going to do one more of these pumpkins. I'm going to come back to the other ones that have dried, just in case we run out of time. Because I want to show you the lining and how I'm going to frame all this out. Get the final colors going. Now more shading. And I'm trying to rush so you can see I'm making a little bit too dark in areas, but that is why, guys, I sell kits and I don't sell finished product, because I get frustrated with myself. And I just have a short attention span. Okay, so we're gonna come back to this first pumpkin. I'm gonna start adding the stem. and I'm going to do some additional highlighting and low lighting here. So I'm using, again, my small brush because we're doing details. I'm picking up a little bit of orange, and I'm going to just start doing little strokes from the bottom up. And then I'm going to do some, again, the same way. Down. And you can see how that is starting to play. Now, I also, before I put in any stem, I do want to add a few highlights. And how I'm going to do that, I'm going to use this other small brush, and I'm going to take just a little bit of that yellow ochre, and I'm going to just put it on the outsides and then a little bit in the center. This is where the light is hitting. Notice that. Okay. Pick up my other brush again because it still has those colors loaded on there. And I'm going to smooth. I feel like I want to put a little bit more down here and here. And then again, use this one. I'm going to just brush up. So this one is the other one that with the oranges on it. Once I get it kind of pretty clear, or I'm pretty dry, it's like a dry brush technique. So let's go back into the next one. Let's go in and put in my colors. And this is where you might see if I had all of those stencils, the veining, that I could be painting right on top of the veining. But you can tell it dries pretty quickly. Again, I have mostly a dry brush here. Mixing in some of the orange to give texture. Kind of the idea of not being able to tell when the colors start to change. So a lot of times it is about softening. Okay, I'm liking that. Just a little bit more here, I believe. So this is what I would do next across the way for all of those. So I'm going to go ahead and do these last three. I'm going to do these last just because, again, I want to make sure that I have time to do the outsides within and still stay within that hour. Okay, I've got my yellow. Sometimes it's just finding where you like it. Back to my orange, blending it in. Just keep going back and forth until I kind of get what I like. It's really starting to come together now. can see how just layering these starts giving it more of a pumpkin texture. Let's do this last one over here. Some people actually would take these and mix a new color and do it that way. I prefer to just do it right on the, I call it the palette, the painting that I'm working on, because it just blends itself so nicely. And I'm not the best at mixing colors. All right, so let's go back and do our stems. So we're going to be using that brown right here for the stems. So I'm just going to be popping these in randomly, but I'm going to be working with two colors. I just decided I'm going to want to work with wet paint. So I'm going to take some of the fawn or that light brown. Of course, I could mix it by mixing some of the vintage white and the dark brown together, but this is just easier. It's kind of like a beigey color. And I'm just gonna do some little streakies in there. And blend. There we go. So see, it's not a solid brown. We know there's going to be different colors. And you can trace these in. I just do it freehand. If I would say, pretty much, if I were doing this start to finish, you guys are only going to get the 1 hour version. It would take about 2 hours. Pick up a little bit of that lighter. Wipe my brush off so I get excess paint off. And just kind of start to drag that through. This is going to end up getting there we go. That's what I thought I was going to have to do. Now, picking back up the dark brown. This stem is going to go the opposite way. Pick up some of that light brown and let's go ahead. That's a lot. Just blend. I'll pick up a little bit of that dark brown again because I want to darker up at the top. There we go. Gonna do this little one. And this next one. You can make these as wide as you want. Okay. All right, now I'm going to pick up some of this dark green. I'm still using the same brush. And I'm going to do a little bit of leaves because we do know that there are going to be some green leaves and the little swirlies sometimes that come off the stems. So I'm just going to, I'm not going to do it on all of them. And I'm not really doing a lot, okay? Because usually there is a vine that these grow on, but you're not going to end up with a whole lot of foliage on there. Basically just making an oval. You can see very, very little. Now I'm going to do the swirlies. Now, please don't get scared by the swirlies. I'm going to do a little leaf there. They are to be whimsical, okay? So the best way I can understand, if you're holding your brush down here and you're doing swirlies, they're going to come off very heavy. To give a lighter touch, back your fingers up a little bit. And remember, it's just a gesture. So right here, I'm going to start at this one. I'm going to go and do a little swirl like that. Okay. I can even do it like this, where it's backwards. And I'm not going to worry about filling those in because this is just the way vines tend to grow. And there's not going to be a lot. Just like that. We're using lots of small bits of color. All right, so now I'm taking this light green. Again, I'm just going to need the tiniest bit. Same brush. Let me smooth my brush out. Just using the tip. And I'm going to just go in and kind of highlight some of these leaf portions. Not blending really, just adding that bit of color. I can add a bit to the swirl if I want. Like this one here, when it goes over this, I'm going to go ahead and do a second swirl. So there's like 2 pieces of vine. And just like that. Okay. Now, the leaves, I'm going to start with, I'm going to be using different browns and oranges and yellows. So I'm going to turn this to where it's a little bit closer. I'm still using that same brush. I am going to rinse it really good just to get it nice and smooth. Sometimes I have to rinse it and then take my fingers and smooth it to get a nice point. We're going to start with, we're going to do each leaf a different color. So I'm going to start with this gold or ochre, the yellow. Oh my gosh, 11:40 already. The time goes by so quickly. I'm gonna fill it in. Notice I didn't do the stem part. Now this is a very, very flat color. So I haven't done the stem. I'm gonna pick up, believe it or not, a little bit of the orange, and I'm just gonna do like a veining. Kind of like outlining. And if I wanted to shade like we have with the pumpkins, I could do that, but I'm not going to now. That was with some orange. Now I've cleaned off my brush and I'm picking up a little bit of brown because my stem is going to be brown. And I'm going to let that just kind of glide through the center. And then just add some little veining branching off. Okay, so let's do the next one. I'm going to do this one in orange. You can see that hair's coming out. That's where I'm going to roll my brush again to just kind of get them all to come together. Unfortunately, it happens. Brushes just are not going to last forever, and you just learn to contend because I'm not buying new brushes with every painting. Again, I'm outlining first, so it's the hardest part to keep smooth lines. I'm going to fill in. And this actually is going to have a second leaf there. So I'm getting a little bit of, just a tiny bit of red. Oh, it exploded on me. So notice that? I'm just going to take it off and put it on my palette. I told you I'm messy. So a little bit of red on there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this like it's a red leaf. Add a little bit there. That's on top of, it's just falling on top of this orange one. I'm going to highlight the outsides and some of these little creases. I want it to be like a reddish orange color. And I'm going to go, in this one, I'm going to blend. And then I'm going to blend a little into this. Last one over here, we're going to do red. I'm going to leave that for the stem. That's going to, again, be brown. I'm also going to do some outlining of these so they pop a little bit more. And I'm going to use that brown for that. Now, if for outlining you tend to be heavy-handed, I tend to be, but I still just do it with a brush. You can get a Posca paint pen. I'm not going to be doing black outlines on this, but the dark brown, you can get the Posca pens in several different colors. So feel free to look that up. Now let's do some shading. And to the stem, pulling that up through the leaf. All right, so let's go back. I'm going to be using the brown. I am going to add that kind of leaf thing here. And I'm going to leave this one bolder just because it's small and on top of the other. And then pull that down. Okay, so now I'm going to do some outlining because, again, I want this to pop a little more. If you don't want to outline, you don't have to. This is just my style. If you've watched me and you continue to watch some of the things I do, I just like things outlined. I don't know why. It's just what I do. And notice my lines are not even. I'm just kind of going around the outside. If I get, if it doesn't come out super solid, that's okay. Again, it's the hint of the outline that tells your brain that that's where you stop looking. And yes, I know I have these over here. Again, we're at 11:47, so I want to show you how I'm going to add more color with the lines. So technically, if I were doing this all at once and I weren't filming, I wouldn't be jumping around to these different parts, right? I'd have all of this done, and then I'd be moving into the outside edge. Notice I still haven't done painted in the Hello Fall, which is going to be black as well. So let's go ahead and turn this back this way. I can see I just got a little bit of paint there. I can wipe it up. I'm going to cover it up later with the vintage white. But I want to make a nice clean line. Let me make sure. And you want to make sure it's dry. So I've got my washi tape here. And I'm going to put it on this side. Now, yeah, I could do this without drawing that line first, but when I'm using that T-square, I make sure that I'm having the measurements right across, and then I can just use my washi tape. I'm going to do the same on this side. I can tell you I kind of like the way the washi tape looks, so I'm probably going to paint the outsides and then add some tape. All right, there we go. All right, so I could do these in just a solid color. I don't think I'm going to do that today. I think today I'm going to do some veining on it to make it appear more like a wood grain. I told you guys I don't really stain, but if I want a wood grain, it's fairly easy to do. So with my liner brush, I'm going to pick up some of the dark brown and I'm going to drop my brush. That happens. Again, I'm not going to worry about that. I am going to just do some different strokes here with this dark brown, mimicking what we would with, you know, like a palette or stained or multi-wood grains. So that's going to be pretty much those that look. We want it to go with. We're not going to do any, we're just doing horizontal. We're not going to do vertical because that's not the grain in which I'm saying my palette is going. And I can do And this can be just a wood hole. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next, I've already got those on there. I'm gonna clean out my medium brush and wipe it dry. And now I'm gonna use this light brown that we used before. So this is the light brown, and I'm just going to paint over. I could use, you know what I'm gonna get my 1-inch brush to do the basics of it, and then I'll use the medium brush to blend more stuff in. So here's my 1-inch brush. It's gonna cut the time down quite a bit. And if I get striations where this light color is deeper on one part than it is on the other, that's quite all right, because we want those different tones. The key here is going to make sure that your brush is doing strokes in the same direction. Okay. Notice like here, I've got some that's not fully covered. That's okay. Need just a little bit more. So it's not perfect. You'll see some splotches. That's okay. You can see the little bit of dark that I did with the brown. We're going to do some more of those. These are my guides. So right now I'm picking up some of the dark brown with the medium brush. I'm going to go right over the top of where I had put those little lines, because I could see them coming through. I know what I'm going for. Okay. Wipe my brush. I'm going to take the big brush. I'm not dipping it in any paint. And I'm going to just go back and forth. Now this paint is drying really quick, so I am going to pick up a little bit of that light brown. And you can see how I'm stroking it. You're getting those light and dark pieces, that shading. And then if I want, I'm going to go back in and add a few more of the darker grains that aren't so wide. And I'm going to use the side of the brush and blend them in. So easy peasy. Right there. All right, and then I'm going to turn this around and do the same thing. Again, no rhyme or reason, just making sure I'm doing the marks where I want the wood grain part to be looking. Randomly broken lines, no one straight all the way across. Picking up my big brush. The light paint. Blending that in. Again, if there's some streakiness, that's quite all right. We're going for a texture more than a solid look. Just a little bit more of this. Okay. Medium brush. some brown again on top of this wet. I'm not adding any additional paint. Thus it seems. I'm going to start first dry. There. And then let's do some of these others, kind of counterbalancing. Again, I'm going to pull those through. Giving you a faux wood look. All right, and then the fun part is we're going to remove this washi tape. You can see we have a nice straight line. Okay. And I did like the look of this. So once this is dry, I'm going to either put a chevron or this on top for the bottom here to give it a little bit more of like a plank header, or I may even choose this one. So I'll let you know when we're done. I'll go ahead and post the final product. You can see how it continues to build and have it uploaded to YouTube. So I want to say thank you to everybody for joining me. I hope you had a great time. Let me know what you think in the comments. If there's anything that you see that you want to do. Again, I'm going to start putting art kits together before too long so that you can purchase the kit and create it at home. But stay creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.